Hey. Welcome to Real Talk with E. I am Pastor Eric Carroll. Thank you for being here and joining us today as we get into some more topics about our marriages. I have with us Johanna Stamps with us. Hey, Johanna. Hey, and then I also got Pastor D over here, Dennis Green.
Yo.
Hey. So he's feeling punchy today, ladies and gentlemen.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah. So last week, you guys, we talked about vision and, kind of like vision in our marriage. And we want to take that next step, kind of where do we go from there? So, Johanna, I'm going to turn it over to you and you can kind of walk us through what do you think the next step should be?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what happens when you start walking towards a vision, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Like what comes up? Usually you start hitting a bunch of walls along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that's the instead of starting with those walls, because I feel like that would just lay flat with the listener audience, that it makes a lot more sense if we're walking in a positive direction and we get to talk about what's coming up then.
Awesome.
And using that as an opportunity.
Cool. Good. What you got? Well, I mean, listen, you're the one that came up with this, and I know you got something on your mind. So
I'm not sure if I did. I feel like we made a meshed version, a list of things that eventually we'd like to talk about. And I don't know whose is whose. So it might have actually been you. Who knows?
Ladies and gentlemen, I want y'all to see Johanna doing her hands.
We will do video.
Yes,
a meshed version.
Yeah, we have some. All right. So let's do this. How about this? So what we want to talk about today is like focus on the tough stuff. Mm-hmm. Pastor D, you good?
Yeah.
So you talk to me. What's the tough stuff?
Well, I want to, to your point, I want to interview Johanna. I want to say so when you started Vision, what got in the way?
All right. Well, I think the first thing that came up when I looked at today, sent it to you guys, I thought, man, those habits, those pesky habits that we do, that we never have any reason to change in our life. Until God is starting to call us into something great.
This is going to get interesting. So what's a pesky habit? Give me one.
Of mine? I don't have any.
No.
Why are you looking at me? I have
Ladies
no idea.
and gentlemen, listen to this. So, how about a pesky habit that you've heard of?
That I have heard of.
Yes.
How about Dennis speaks first, so I can cleanse the palate. Because now that I'm laughing,
Hey.
I'm giggly, and now I can't see any of my flaws.
Do you see her running?
Yeah, that's a setup.
Yeah, pretty much.
So let's get back to
Well,
that.
what does Brenda say?
Well, Brenda is just so amazing that she would never bring up something like that.
Sorry.
Let me go back to what I thought when you said, let's tackle the tough stuff and the walls that get in the way. And then we'll come back to pesky habits, okay? Because that's a great thing to challenge ourselves with. Is vision influenced by the baggage that we both bring?
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh.
So,
oh, interesting.
now, included in the baggage might be bad habits, not even bad habits, but habits that are not healthy toward the common shared vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might not be necessarily a bad habit at a different place in your life, but it's not a habit that's going to lead you to a healthy place together, right? Mm-hmm. So it kind of, in my mind, this whole thing goes to the mistakes so many of us make, and I think the guys are complicit. I don't think they think this way most of the time, but they're complicit in allowing their fiancés to be so excited and so focused on marriage and planning and honeymoon.
Marriage or wedding?
Well, wedding, excuse me, yes. Wedding, honeymoon, and not be really giving any attention at all to somebody's making them go attend some premarital stuff, but they're not excited about it. They, they're rose-colored glasses.
Now that's interesting. That is very interesting because I wonder sometimes, is that the lady or the young woman? Or is that the guy? Or is that both?
Or is it culture?
Yeah.
When you say that, are you talking about the more attention on the wedding and the...
Well, more attention on Who's really driving the attention to the marriage versus the wedding?
I don't think either of them are driving attention to the marriage.
Okay.
I think the guy's just trying to stay out of the way and support what he thinks is the right thing to do to make it a peaceful transition in from being engaged to getting through the wedding and then through the honeymoon. The couples that I am thinking about, that I have counseled, that I've talked to, I don't think there's much focus at all from either of them.
Wow.
Wait, so is that the pesky habit that's like the monster truck, like barreling down the road? Like that is the way that you're going into the marriage by going that way through the wedding. Is that just what continues to barrel down? Often? Is
I
that
don't
where
think that's a pesky habit. I think that's
that's definitely not a pesky habit, but that's a really big flaw in the way that we enter into marriages, and maybe a big reason why that first year is so difficult.
Yeah.
I would just say, yeah.
Is that cultural driven? I mean, is that, the 10-year-old girl who dreams about her wedding day, and is that where that comes from? From even the West has carried forward so many of the Eastern cultures around weddings and parties and celebrations and, all those kinds of things. I don't know the answer.
I think it could be. I mean, I think anytime you start looking at what somebody has dreamt about for a long time, guys won't tell you that they have dreamt about getting married, having a family. All that. They don't tell you that. They think that that's too wimpy or that's not tough or whatever you want to go. I'm not exactly sure the reason behind it. But what I will say is that, to your point about the influence, I don't know if it's cultural influence or if it's influence within your family.
Pressure.
The pressure that you have to make this beautiful, and I know for young ladies, I'll say this from just watching and kind of hearing from, there's a lot of pressure to make this look as good as, well, my girlfriend who just got married 2 months ago, or, from maybe there's pressure that comes from the family, like, well, we need to invite so-and-so and so-and-so. So you start thinking about that pressure that hits during the time of the wedding. That influence has to be driven, or it does get driven into the marital relationship, because you start to see who somebody really is versus who they've shown you to be for a while.
Yep.
Just saying.
I think through my wedding planning, I think that I probably was having burnout around the time of the actual wedding. I think walking beyond that, I think I still walked into, I think I was having adrenal failure at some point. It was horrible. It was a very, very messy way to start a life with somebody. And
Absolutely.
and all of that was because of family pressure.
Yeah. See, that's crazy.
His pressure or yours or both?
Everybody's pressure.
Everybody's pressure, really.
Well, not being heard, I think that was a big thing. But I think that's probably part of it. Like when you're, if we're talking about this as being, something to dissect a little bit, this, I think, is a really big flaw.
Well, the pesky habit then seems like it comes from, now you've made it and now you're off of the honeymoon and now things are beginning to be a little contentious in an area or two. And so the pesky habit is, how do you deal with the stress, right?
Yeah.
For me, I used to go to the driving range. I would withdraw and I wanted to go hit golf balls, and I just loved, that was my stress relief. I would just go pound golf balls. And then I could go back home and then I could engage. That was a pesky habit that wasn't helping anybody. Right? Because she felt like she was abandoned and felt like that there were other things more important than her. And I was just trying to figure out how to process and deal with the differences. But we had 30 minutes of premarital counseling. That's what we had, literally 30 minutes. So we weren't prepared. She was 18, I was 25. I didn't know squat. I just barely know squat now, but I didn't know
I want to know
anything.
what's the step above squat? Like, it's not squirt. I don't know.
Ill. But is that communication though? Is that communication though? I mean, because there's a couple that I know of, And I was telling them as they were going through their planning process for their wedding and everything. And I said to them, I said, this is your wedding. You own all of it. That means you make the decisions. And your decision, should not be influenced by what you think somebody else is going to think about something. And the reason why I say that is because what we do, I think, what I've seen anyway, is that people start to build their wedding plans around what other people think and how other people are going to see something. And does it make sense? Well, because so-and-so did it this way, and then so-and-so did it this way. And then, to your point, the guy is kind of like sitting in the cut going, I'm really not going to say a whole lot because I want to keep this as peaceful as I can possibly keep it, and I don't want to drive any more stress on her. But at the same time, what ends up happening is there's a failure to communicate in that moment between the two of them. And now that carries over, whether you call it a pesky habit or just something that's really missing, that carries over into the marriage. Mm-hmm. I've seen it happen one too many times. And then all of a sudden, year 2 rolls around, year 3, which is kind of like the 2 hard years because, to your point, Dennis, honeymoon is over. We're stepping into like the reality of what marriage life is going to look like. And then what do people do? They start checking out. Mm-hmm. The golf balls start becoming more of I'm going to go now play golf all day Saturday and all day Sunday because I just need to get away because we don't communicate. All we do is yell. Mm-hmm. I mean, is that the tough stuff?
Or is it the fact that she or somebody is developing a dream and they walk forward and they say, my dream, my dream, my dream, my dream. No video, so you can't see what I'm doing, but like putting up your hands. And then not listening to anybody's dream, not caring about somebody else's dream. And then you get to across the finish line. You're like, okay, great. My dream.
Yes. It all worked out for him or her. But it doesn't work out for us.
Yes.
Amen. Yeah, I think that's definitely a challenge that I've seen in, like people starting off in their marriage, because the tough stuff now in a wedding will become tough stuff in a marriage. Amen. If it doesn't get addressed, if it doesn't get dealt with. Mm-hmm. One of the things I was thinking about is like not only communication, but like chemistry. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people end up getting married and then they realize, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, I probably shouldn't have married this person. Mm-hmm. Well, of course you shouldn't. You weren't in love with them. You were in lust with them. There was no chemistry between the two of you because there was nothing foundational that you guys really could connect on. Everything seemed a little, I don't know, pie in the sky.
Or you had a timeline.
Oh. Okay, expound.
Well, your clock is ticking, especially as a woman, even though, now... Who is it? Robert De Niro? Did Robert De Niro Al Pacino just had a baby at 79? Is that right?
Yeah. One of them.
So now we know, one of them. So now we know that your clocks do not matter at all. So one person's clock matters. And so when it starts, I'm not gonna share the research about what happened.
That is
okay. We'll just
no
pause.
Research.
Pause. No research. No research. Anyway.
Well, let me extrapolate on this a little bit. Tough stuff
about 79-year-olds having babies.
You're just obsessed with that. Get away.
Love it.
So Eric says that we're in lust. Why do you think the Bible says that we shouldn't have sex before marriage?
I thought that was a typo.
This is not time for personal testimony, Johanna.
And they all say, y'all, that I'm the bad one. Thank you, Lord. We have evidence now. But I think the Bible tells us to not have sex before marriage is because we begin to lustfully want someone, and that is nowhere, any way, shape, or form close to the love factor. None. Because I can lust after you and not want to spend any time with you other than that time of lust.
Absolutely. And, we men are just not equipped to think straight when sex is involved, particularly as a young man with the hormones going crazy.
Yeah.
When the sex becomes available, it just alters the way that we process and think.
Sure.
And we cannot make the same decisions involved in that we would not involved in that. Sure.
Well, that's interesting also just in terms of how God sees us. He doesn't just see us as one facet of ourselves. He sees us as millions of facets. Sorry, I'm using my hands a lot today. Let's move this back a
Johanna's
little
beating
bit.
the mic up.
God's hands. Anyway, yeah. So, I mean, it's like you said, if that's the only thing that you can think about, then that is the only thing about that other person that you can think about. And so, I mean, from a counseling and coaching perspective, like we are trained to say and to look at the person as the way that God sees them, which is their personality, their intelligence, what they're bringing to that, like what are their passions, what are their dreams. And like you said, if there's only one thing that you can see, then you're not going to see all that other stuff.
Well, it also is a cloud, I think, too. I think, me personally, I think men and women, I think it's a cloud because women have become a lot more aggressive now than what they ever were before. And to be honest with you, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if it's that bad. And I'm going to tell you why I don't know if it's that bad. I don't know if it's that bad because I don't know if there would be any weddings that would take place if a woman was not more aggressive now than what she was before.
Wait, I don't understand. Say it again.
So I believe women are more aggressive now.
So you're saying that is a fact.
I believe that they're more aggressive now than what they've ever been before. And the reason why I say that I don't think that I don't know that if that's necessarily a bad thing, because some guys would date into perpetuity.
Ah, okay.
So if a woman wasn't more aggressive in her stance on things, then she may not end up ever getting married because the guy is, I don't know, he's slow to the game or something, right? Now, I know we were talking about sexual intercourse. I know we were talking about sex. I get all that, but I'm saying that has played a part into, I think, even women being more aggressive sexually. And I think that's why there's more aggressive. I think that's one of the reasons why women are more willing to have sex early on in a relationship than what they are later on in a relationship. I'm not trying to like give anybody an out on, sinning, right? Having sex before marriage. But I think some women feel like that if they don't, they won't keep the guy.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and hold on, and here's the reason why I'm saying that. It's because the guy has also portrayed that that's very important to me, and I'm not willing to wait for it.
But I mean, it's such an interesting, it's such a fickle little thing because if you give it, then there is no chase. That whole like masculine side of things is just kind of completely gone.
Is it?
Oh.
Because sometimes when you give it, there's more chase.
Oh, interesting.
I'm just talking. Listen, I've listened to enough couples talk about this. He's upset when he doesn't get any. He's cranky. And so when I give him some, he's compliant, right? Now, these are not married couples. These are dating couples. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, if y'all are going through that right now, he's going to be a bear to deal with when you get married because he's now learning how to control you by virtue of that act, right? So the pesky little, what do we call that
Habits.
again?
Pesky habit.
The pesky habit is there's a manipulation that comes along within the wedding, during the time of dating, through the wedding, that carries on into the marriage, and then that starts to you're already starting off on the wrong foot at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So couples that are struggling that way and have not gotten married yet, what's your counsel?
What I would tell them is that you need to move out. Y'all do not need to live together. And they tell me, hey, well, we can't afford not to live together. I would say, then you need to ask family, can you come live with them some way, shape, or form? I've already done this with a couple. You need to figure out how to live apart from each other. And then both of you need to go seek some counseling on why you are doing what you're doing. It's real. Let's face it. If we cohabitate together, there is a greater likelihood that we're going to have sex, especially if we have any sort of connection with one another, whether it's mental, physical, whatever it is. The spiritual side comes in on the individual level. It doesn't come in on the collective level. Does that make sense? Does it make sense to you? Johanna? Because you're looking at me all perplexed.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm looking at you perplexed because of just the sacrament of marriage. I mean, isn't there? Oh, this is pre. Got you. Yes, I'm tracking with you now. I don't know why I'm so slow today.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I didn't call you slow. Dennis did, though. Oh, my bad. My bad.
Where is the hand clapping? There we go.
No, I mean, so on a serious note, though, Dennis, I would tell them y'all need to move. Y'all need to separate from one another, meaning not living in the same place with one another. And you need to talk to somebody to help you guys kind of move through this maze of what it means to date without having sex. It is hard to do it because if you've already tasted and seen that it is good, guess what? You just want more of it. And you want more of it. And you want more of it. And then what happens is now we've created an expectation that whether we like it or not, it's there. So when we tell them to move out and, hey, y'all need to separate from one another and kind of work on yourselves in that way, that's all great. But then there's got to be a support system that helps them move through that as well. Like, hey, I need a buddy that says to me, hey, listen, I know y'all are going out tonight. Make sure you just kiss her at the door, let her go in, and you leave. Don't put yourself in an environment that you're going to lose at, because that's what's going to happen. Now, unless you're stronger, Johanna, maybe you are. I don't believe you, but maybe you are. Now, that's love right there.
That's wise counsel. I mean, I like all of that. I think you really do have to have some weekly accountability or whatever the rhythm is. But I don't think that a couple can go cold turkey after they have been active sexually without coming back to my therapist at the end of the week or whatever that rhythm is and saying, okay, this week has been really hard. Here's what I've learned. Therapist is going to ask them great questions and then kind of helping you move forward. But I like that. That's really good. I think wise counsel there.
Come on.
Well, I think what I'm now that you're kind of throwing the wrench in it that this is dating, you know, I mean, because we were originally talking about marriage, so now we're talking about dating.
Agreed.
But I wonder if kind of maybe this is idealistic, but I believe that marriage is a perfect like laboratory for healing for our lives. And what you're talking about is healing separately as opposed to healing together. And so as we're talking about like what are the pesky habits, what are the big, things that are coming up that need to be healed, like I just feel like there's such an opportunity to do that healing together.
I agree. When you're married, yes.
Okay.
I think Dennis was asking me the question about what would the counsel be would I give
for
to
the
somebody
dating.
for those who are dating. Well, even those who are they're engaged, right? And you want to stay pure because you want to be able to give your new spouse something that at least try to give them something that they have not gotten from you, right? I ain't gonna sit up here. Listen, I had sex a lot in high school. I had sex a lot in college. So it was an afterwards. At the end of the day, when I was getting married, the idea was to say we're going to do everything in our power not to do this, because we both knew what sex felt like and how good it was, right? But you don't know how good it is with your partner, or you shouldn't know how good it is with the person that you're about to marry until you actually marry, because there's nothing you have to give anybody if you think about it. I had nothing new to give Jill. Nothing. Because I had already given it out. And so when I start talking about these pesky habits and everything, that's why I'm like, okay, so part of it is communication, some of it is compatibility, but it's also just realizing that it sucks to have to do that. Abstinence sucks after you have already done something multiple times because you don't know how to.
I want to know if you were bragging or if it was confession.
Both. Both.
So
Just call me Mac. Daddy.
Johanna, let's back up. You said something brilliant that I don't think most people, I think they're still processing. So they missed Eric's confession because they're still processing.
Yeah, please process.
Marriage is the ultimate, that's not the word you used, the ultimate healing ground. Is that right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So our friend Mike, who we all know, he says that there can never be a relationship that's ongoing with one unhealthy person and one healthy person. They either are both unhealthy and they learn how codependency works, or they're both healthy.
Yeah.
I bet most of the people listening to this fall in between. I bet most of us would say, I have one healthy and one unhealthy, or at least some degree, of that. So how do you counsel moving forward, getting to a place where marriage can be a healing place?
I think first being aware that everybody has something that can be healed in a marriage.
Amen.
Like if we come like that and we say, let's be curious. Not what are you going to nitpick in my life, but what does God want to shine a light on? What does he want to shine a light on that he wants to heal in our life, and how are we going to do that as we walk forward together? And so it's not but you just keep going and hitting golf balls without me. It's not that. There's something happening here. There's a reason why you go, and I'm just interested, like just from a place of curiosity, like why do you go? Like what drives you in order to do that? That's a very different tone, and that's a tone of we can heal this together, which I think it doesn't happen a lot.
Boo.
Is it Halloween?
So let me ask you a question. So when you ask that question, do you really want to know the answer?
No.
Oh, do you ask that question just looking to get an answer? Because
I think we are very fearful in our relationships. I think most of us come into relationships thinking this person is 2 steps away from running out the door away from me just because we've been hurt so many times before.
How about you?
Time to go. Time's up.
Oh no, we ain't stopping on this. Not at all. I'm telling you, I think that the main reason why that there are pesky habits, emphasis on the word pesky. It's because we never address them during dating. We never address them during the wedding planning. We never talk about those things. We wait until we get married, and then one or the other starts thinking, well, I can change them. Is that fair? Is that fair? Come on, is it fair?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But to your point, Johanna, Brenda went with me many, many times and sat on the bench and watched me pound golf balls because I think she might not have had that language, but she had that curiosity. I know this can't get healed when we're apart, so let me go and try to figure out a way that we can talk through this, whatever that looks like.
I'm glad you mended that so that Brenda didn't hear this and think, why is she making fun of me?
I just want to know. Nobody has answered my question. How do we help people that they don't want to hear the answer? If people really wanted to hear the answer, we wouldn't even be talking about this right now. Think about it.
That's fair.
I don't know that people ever. So if why do you always have to go hit golf balls? Well, because you keep talking and you won't stop talking. So I have an opportunity to process what you've said.
Eric said that, Brenda. I didn't say that.
No. Dennis said that. He wrote it and he slipped it over to me. But I mean, for real. I mean, when we have these moments to tell the truth, we won't tell the truth.
Yeah,
now,
but isn't that back to a communication issue? That's the way that you are going to respond to the situation.
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't have to see it as raggedly as I said it. But I mean, there is a stance that says, okay, if I love you, I will tell you the truth. I don't think that you can ever say this to anyone. I love you, and then you give them half truth, or you give them part of the truth, right? Because, I don't want to hurt your feelings. Well, then what happens once it all blows up? What ends up happening? The person that you told the half truth to, they said, if you had just trusted me enough to tell me all of it, then maybe we could have talked through it, right? What happens? Is it that we don't trust each other? I mean, you were talking about healing in a marriage, right? To me personally, I think that if you don't start healing in the wedding or before the wedding, you're not going to really heal in the marriage. It's not going to happen until something dire takes place.
It's like we were talking about before. What are you setting up your marriage for? Are you setting it up for everything that the wedding creates, which is a bit of a disaster, or are you setting it up for something that's beautiful, something that's a place for healing?
Did you raise your hand, Dennis? Are you scared?
I'm scared.
I think Dennis is scared now. Okay, well, whatever.
Doesn't this go back to the foundational thing, though? You teach people how to treat you?
100%. 100%. I agree.
And that's in dating, and that's in the wedding, and that's in marriage. And you have to learn how much tough stuff is created by not knowing healthy alternatives.
That's good.
Right?
There's your tweetable moment there, Dennis.
Hashtag tough stuff. I like that though, Dennis. I mean, that is true, because here's the other thing. What I've seen happen, there's a couple, they're engaged, or they're just dating, either one, right? And then there's their parents that are watching this train wreck. I mean, they got a front row seat to the train wreck. And what do? Well, I can't say anything because, she really loves him or he really loves her. So I really can't
Or she's
say
really
it.
getting old. Nobody else will ever come along.
Oh my gosh. Now what did we just teach her? Oh, him. Again.
God has no plan for your life.
Bingo. Oh, and by the way, God can't do that because you're too old, or God can't keep us from having sex because we've already tasted of the fruit of the tree. I mean, it's so many different things that come back to the honesty factor that I wish as people we would just be honest with one another. Yes, it's going to hurt, but so does the half truth or the lie. Which one hurts more?
Yeah. Well, I think also there's opportunity, like we talked about. I think next time we just need to talk about communication somehow. Just make it into an interesting discussion about communication. Just because people can real healing happens when somebody discovers the healing for themselves.
That's right, because you said that sometimes the question can be asked, do you want to get better?
Well, and a lot of other questions can get asked, like, whatever is appropriate for the situation. And when somebody goes on that psychological journey for themselves or a spiritual journey for themselves, then something can be revealed that somebody couldn't just point it out. Like, like that zit on your nose. I'm like, what zit on my nose? Like, like, I don't know.
Did she just use
I don't know why where is my brain going
teenager?
today?
I was hoping that it wasn't a spiritual journey that you were talking about. Who am I to?
What is the proverbial zit on our nose in a spiritual journey? Yeah,
Exactly.
but
All right.
I think there's something to be said about how we can do that, how we can discover truth in our lives in a way that brings somebody to deeper healing as opposed to deeper pain.
All right, last word. Each one of us. Dennis, what would you say? So, we're trying to move through focusing on the tough stuff, getting, and walls that get in the way, pesky habits. What's your last word to everybody?
I don't know. I have a question, not a last word.
Oh,
so
sure.
how do we help couples who are hearing this right now, married couples who have grown children or children that are going to be getting married? How do we help them navigate in a more healthy way? That seems to be resonating with me. How do we create alternatives so that they have some healthier paths to pursue? What does that look like?
Okay.
I feel like that's a good place to start for our next conversation. Or did you want the answer right now?
Please.
I love it. Please.
I'm sure that you'll take it back to some kind of zit analogy.
Probably thinking the same thing, Dennis. You don't want to touch that one. The pop and hit you in the eye.
Oh, gross.
Nice.
Oh, my goodness. You want to go for it, Eric?
No, you go right ahead. You got. I'm writing here.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about it next time, so I
No. What,
didn't come up with it.
what's your parting shot?
Okay. We didn't get to the second half of this, which was going to be about hope.
Sure. Well, what's your parting shot on hope?
I think that in the deepest and darkest moments, in those times when we're being so incredibly untactful with each other, that just coming to a place, just quieting yourself and understanding that this is not the end. I think there's something that, especially as women, we just kind of jump to this place of doom, like absolute doom. There cannot be a way forward. And I think just allowing for some of that light to come in, maybe that is kind of the answer to your question, or maybe one of the answers to your question. Like practicing hope.
That's nice. I like that, practicing hope. That could be a hashtag. Seriously. Practicing hope. I guess I would say that my parting shot, folks, is this. Lies hurt way more than the truth on every single level. Lies kind of produce this lack of trust, and it starts to erode and eat away at your relationship. So tell the truth. Whether the lie is coming from you to your spouse, whether the lie is coming from your parents to you, it doesn't matter where the lie is coming from. The lie still hurts more, and it like I said, it erodes trust, and when the trust gets eroded, then no matter what relationship you're in, it's going to suffer. No matter what you do, it's going to suffer. So if the lie is, I'm going to honor God and I'm going to stay pure, and then you break that vow of honoring God and staying pure, you just told a lie. And that lie not only hurts you, but it hurts the person that you are associated with. So at the end of the day, my hope would be that we as people will learn how to communicate very strongly in our relationships. So when we do we're blessed to get to that place of, getting married, then, a wedding and everything, we're still talking truthfully to one another through it. And we're not trying to figure each other out, which is what I hear a lot of when I do counseling. Well, I thought he meant, I thought she was thinking, well, why didn't you just ask? And then whatever they gave you, believe what they said. So, parting shot. Hey, listen, everybody, thank you so very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We'll be back where we're going to talk about some of these other topics, and we're probably going to dig into what Pastor Dennis just said. And I love, Johanna, I really do love what you said about practicing hope, because I think that is something that when we look into that, as we look into our marriages, we start to see that the marriage, there's no end game of the marriage. When you are hopeful for eternity. So my hope is that we would also look at that as well. I want to thank you guys for joining Real Talk with E. This is Pastor E with Tomahawk Baptist Church. We love you guys, and thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you the next time.